Now, police forces have pledged to investigate every low-level offence in a bid to tackle the scourge of crime across the country. It's a pretty astonishing revelation. What were they? I mean, sorry, your coppers, Nick Crooks. I mean, what were they not doing before? Chief constables have promised to look into cases including shoplifting as well as car and bike theft. They've essentially become decriminalised in certain communities. Now, joining me to discuss this, I'm really pleased he's in the studio, actually, because he's excellent on this subject, is former Scotland Yard detective Peter Bleksley. Now, Peter, thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. I'm really glad you're here, because you talk so much sense on this subject. The Times yesterday had this, if you missed it yesterday, this is it. It's astonishing. It's one of those headlines that really goes, what? We'll act on every crime, say the police. Instant reaction is, what the hell have you been doing? Peter, what did you make of this? It must really, as a former detective, this must have angered you.
Goodness me, we could be here a very long time discussing this. First and foremost, how are they going to do it? Because there are so many crimes which affect the moderate majority of Britain that the police manifestly have ignored for years. And they're finally waking up because I think they're listening to contributors like me and yourself on channels like this who have been saying for ages, where are the police? What are they doing? Why aren't they investigating burglary and other similar crimes? Well, hooray, they're going to do this apparently. As I say, quite how, in terms of numbers, is going to be a challenge, but the Commissioner of the Met said that as of September, they will not attend mental health calls unless there's a threat to life, for example. So that might free up thousands, if not millions, of police officer hours.
This is the problem, isn't it? The police stopped being a force that nicked criminals, basically, and started being care in the community because the social care system has collapsed as well. So, as you say, now this recent announcement, this headline is based on a scheme in Greater Manchester where Steve Watson, the Chief Constable, took the force out of special measures. Quickly, yeah, by actually getting back to the basics.
Indeed.
So that's worked, and sort of like 38% increase in charges for burglary. So it seems to work.
And who would have thought it, Sherlock?
I know.
That there would be a huge uptake in the amount of burglaries solved once you started actually investigating them. The police have an awful lot to answer for. They get a lot of bad press, much of it entirely justified. Not the rank and file who are out there on the front line.
Isn't it? Yeah.
The men and women.
Yeah.
You know, yet again, there's more videos of heroic police work being carried out today. They run towards danger so that we can sleep in our beds at night. It's not the rank and file, generally speaking. It's those buffoons who all trotted off to university and have got their degrees because they like letters after their names as well as in front of their names, and they came back to policing with their heads full of pseudo-intellectual claptrap, which has no real place in policing, and consequently, they had a disconnect, not only between their frontline troops, who they've used as fodder, but the moderate majority of Britain, who used to routinely support the police. And why? Because if they got burgled, it would be investigated. Perhaps not solved, but at least they'd try. Same with having your car stolen. Same when it comes down to the local retail outlets that we use and rely upon, like the Co-op. Look at all the noises coming out of the Co-op this week, slamming the police for a lack of action in thousands and thousands of cases. And maybe, perhaps just maybe, the police are thinking, if we want to regain trust from the public, we've got to start investigating the crimes that affect the majority of the public instead of pandering like they've done to every minority community, every group, because of gender, faith, orientation, colour of skin. They've spent years pandering to all these people. Whereas if they engaged with two communities, The first community being victims of crime, and the second community being perpetrators of crime, because everyone's affected by crime.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of all faiths and religions and skin colour and all of that. If they did that properly, all those people would say, do you know what? The police came round and dealt with my crime. They were excellent. Then they get the trust back.
So, I mean, there was that, I heard it on the radio this morning, that example of the pub in Essex where they sent 6 police officers to remove toys. They were golly dolls, weren't they, to remove toys? And yet, meanwhile, there was someone who was in the village who'd been burgled, who couldn't get an officer round to see them. So is this weird sort of like, you know, the thought police rather than the actual police? Now, obviously, police numbers fell from 144,000 in 2010 to 117,000 in 2018. But police numbers are going back up now, from what I understand, so we're almost level to where we were. How much of this is to do also with red tape and the amount of time the ordinary men and women on the beat have to fill in paperwork and, you know, fight their way through red tape rather than doing the job many of them love?
I just have to say, record numbers of police officers are leaving the job. This year was the highest ever, over 9,000 in a single year. And many of them just voluntary resignations because they've had enough, because the management have dumped on them from a very great height, because the workload's been overbearing, because of the abuse they receive, because of the bad press they get, a lot of it brought upon themselves, mind you, and a number of factors, and of course pay and pension conditions being butchered in recent years. So a policeman's lot is not a very happy one at the moment. But on the point you asked, yes, there needs to be efficiencies. Frontline police officers will tell you that some of the IT systems are absolutely appalling and not fit for purpose. Duplication, a disproportionate amount of time taken to input information, and quite frankly, a lot of the time, it just doesn't work. The CPS, forever sending memos, wanting more statements and more work, and so it goes on. These things could and should have been addressed many, many years ago, but when the sharp-suited IT people come in and start selling their wares to the police services, they quite metaphorically have their trousers taken down. And that, quite frankly, has not been good enough. I don't know why they don't get practically minded people to road test, and get this stuff right. It is not that difficult.
Do we need more coppers on the beat, more police stations being opened again?
Oh, numbers matter. Numbers do matter. Over 600 police stations closed in recent years. And again, that affects public confidence, because what do you want? You want to know who your local police officer is. You want to know his or her name. You want to know how you can get in touch with them, and you know where you could go and have a natter with them. That just simply does not exist.
Happen. But it's not a lost cause, as Manchester proved, so we hope we can move on.
And if this happens, then great, but please, just as a safety note, don't hold your breath.